Our assets walk out of the door each evening. We have to make sure that they come back the next morning. Pretty profound, right?
Yeah.
It's Narayana Murthy,
Oh, wow.
the former CEO of Infosys, talking about, well, employees.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect intro to our deep dive today into the world of staffing.
I love it.
Something you, dear listener, specifically requested. We're going to be cracking open a 12th grade business studies textbook, or at least part of a chapter,
Okay.
to really get a grasp on this whole staffing thing.
Yeah.
What it is, why it matters, how it fits into the bigger picture of human resource management. You with me?
I'm totally with you.
All right, let's jump right in.
That's a good.
What exactly is staffing? I mean, we kind of have an idea, but...
Yeah. So at its core,
Yeah.
staffing is about getting the right people in the right jobs. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
It's like a matching game.
It is a matching game. Yeah. More than just like filling an empty chair, right?
Yeah.
You have to understand the skills, the talents, what each person brings to the table.
Right. And making sure those align with what the organization actually needs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, come on, businesses have always needed people, right?
Of course. Yeah.
What makes staffing so, I don't know, crucial, so important now?
Well, think about it. The world of work, it's changing so fast.
It is.
Technology, globalization, the skills you need to, keep up to thrive, they're constantly in flux.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always learning something new.
Exactly. So staffing is even more critical now than ever before. I mean, you get the right people in the right roles, boom, performance, productivity through the roof. You also avoid all those costs, disruptions of being overstaffed or understaffed, and you create an environment where your employees feel valued, motivated.
Right, and happy.
Happy employees, happy company, happy life.
And a happy bottom line. Okay, so you
Right.
mentioned human resource management earlier.
I did.
Can we unpack that a little bit?
Yeah.
What's the connection between staffing and this broader idea of HRM?
Yeah, so staffing, it's actually a core function of HRM. HRM is all about managing people, treating them as valuable assets. Kind of like, what was that quote?
Narayana Murthy.
Yes, exactly. But here's the interesting thing. HRM itself has gone through quite an evolution over time.
Okay, tell me more about this evolution. I'm intrigued.
So in the early days, HR was all about like basic labor welfare, working conditions, wages, things like that.
Yeah, the bare minimum.
Right. Then, boom, trade unions emerge. They advocate for workers' rights. Everything starts to shift.
It's a power shift, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And the focus moves from just managing labor to really recognizing that employees are valuable resources.
Okay, light bulb moment.
Like, hey, if we invest in these people, training, development, a positive work environment, we get more productivity, more innovation.
It's a whole new way of looking at employees.
Exactly.
Not just a cost center, but an asset.
Exactly. An asset that walks out the door each evening.
But hopefully it comes back in the morning.
Hopefully. That's the key.
That's the key. All right, I think it's time to break this down. Let's walk through the staffing process step by step.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, first things first. What's the very first step?
Figuring out how many people you need and what kind of skills they need to have. We call that estimating manpower requirements.
Okay, so not just numbers, but types of expertise, specific skills, right?
Right. It's like, okay, what does the job actually involve? What are those must-have skills? What are our diversity goals? And what about future growth? You get to think ahead.
So you're looking at the present and the future. You're also analyzing the current workload, the workforce, to see if the company is, I don't know, overstaffed, understaffed, or right on target.
Exactly. It's like laying the foundation, getting that clear picture of where you stand.
Okay, so you've got your needs figured out. Now what?
Now comes the fun part. Recruitment.
Ah, yes, the hunt for talent.
Exactly. Attracting those potential candidates. And let me tell you, there are a lot of different avenues to explore.
The textbook mentions a whole bunch.
It does.
It's like a buffet of recruitment methods.
It really is.
So where do we start?
Well, you've got your internal sources.
People already within the company.
Exactly. Think transfers, promotions.
Right, so promoting from within. I can see how that would boost morale. Like, hey, there's room for growth here.
Absolutely. It shows employees you're invested in them, which can lead to more loyalty, more engagement.
Makes sense. But I guess relying solely on internal sources could have its downsides too, right?
You're sharp. Yeah, you could end up with a lack of fresh ideas, diverse perspectives.
Right. Sometimes you need that outside perspective.
Absolutely. So you got to strike a balance.
Internal and external recruitment. Okay, so what about those external sources? Let's dive into that world.
Oh, it's a big world out there. You've got your traditional methods like direct recruitment, Companies post a job opening, candidates apply. Pretty
I'll have to
straightforward.
back up that.
Then there are employment exchanges, recruitment agencies, and even, campus recruitment.
Campus recruitment. Interesting.
Yeah, companies go directly to universities, to find young talent.
Fresh out of school, eager to learn. I like it. What else?
And then there's the power of referrals.
Referrals.
Yeah, like an employee recommends a friend or a former colleague for a position. It's like a built-in recommendation system.
So word of mouth, but in a professional setting. I can see how that would be valuable.
It is. The referring employee kind of acts as a filter. They know the candidate, they know the company culture.
It's a good fit, hopefully.
Hopefully.
All right, so now you've got this pool of candidates from all these different sources. What happens next? This is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Exactly. It's selection time.
The choosing process.
Yes, figuring out who is the best fit for the role, for the organization.
So how does that work? Break it down for me.
First up, usually, is preliminary screening.
So weeding out the, the not-so-great fits.
Yeah. Reviewing applications, resumes, maybe some initial phone interviews.
Getting a feel for who might be a good match. Okay, what's next?
Then a lot of companies use selection tests.
Tests, like exams.
Yeah, but not always like your typical school exam. You've got intelligence tests, aptitude tests, personality tests, even tests for specific skills or interests.
It's all about getting a more complete picture of the candidate, right?
Right.
Okay, so we've got the tests. What else?
The employment interview,
The classic job interview.
the one and only. This is where they really dig deep. Experience, qualifications, how you might fit into the company culture.
It's a two-way street, though, right? The candidate is also interviewing the company.
Absolutely. It's a matchmaking process.
Right. Okay, then what?
Reference checks, background checks, making sure everything lines up, that the candidate is who they say they are.
Due diligence. Important stuff. So if a candidate makes it through all of that,
Then comes the job offer.
the golden ticket.
Pretty much.
But it's not over yet, right?
Not quite. Placement and orientation are super important. Getting the new employee settled into their role, meeting the team, learning the ropes.
Making them feel welcome.
Exactly.
Part of the team.
And then there's training and development, which we'll dive into after a quick break.
All right, we're back and ready to tackle training and development. This is where employees really get a chance to, level up their skills.
Absolutely. It's essential, really,
Yeah.
for both the employee and the organization.
It's a win-win, right? So let's talk benefits. Why is investing in training and development so important?
Well, for starters, it boosts skills and knowledge. I mean, that's kind of obvious.
Yeah, makes sense.
But think about it. That leads to better performance, higher productivity. Employees can handle new challenges, adapt to new technologies. They can contribute more effectively.
It's like giving them the tools to succeed.
Exactly. And don't forget about morale. When employees feel like the company cares about their growth, they're happier, more motivated.
More engaged, more loyal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? It can actually save the company money in the long run.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Well, when employees are well-trained, they make fewer mistakes, they're more efficient. It can even reduce workplace accidents.
So it's a smart investment all around. Now, the textbook mentions different types of training methods. Can we break those down?
Sure. You've got on-the-job training and off-the-job training. On-the-job is pretty self-explanatory.
Learning by doing, right?
Right. You're in the actual work environment, learning from your colleagues, your supervisors.
Hands-on experience, that's got to be valuable.
It is. Think about apprenticeships. Learning a trade from a master craftsman, or coaching, where a more experienced employee guides a newer one. Internships, too, they give you that practical experience.
Okay, so that's on the job. What about off the job?
Off the job happens outside the usual work environment. You might attend lectures, workshops, seminars, watch videos, participate in simulations, role-playing, that sort of thing.
More of a structured learning environment.
Right.
So you've got classroom lectures, case studies. I've heard those can be pretty intense.
They can be. And then there's computer-based training. It's becoming more and more popular.
Oh, yeah, online courses, modules, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Interactive stuff makes it more engaging.
So there's really a training method out there for everyone. Okay, we've covered a lot on training and development. What other key considerations are there in the staffing process?
Well, there's compensation. You can't forget about that.
Ah, yes, the money part.
The money part. Getting that right is essential. You want to attract good people and keep them.
It's got to be fair, competitive.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot, what the company can afford and what the market demands.
It sounds complicated. What factors go into determining compensation?
Lots of things. The job itself, the responsibilities, the skills it requires, its impact on the organization, and then you've got legal requirements, company policies.
Minimum wage laws, things like that.
Right. And then, of course, you got to stay competitive with what other companies are offering for similar roles.
Keep an eye on the market.
Always. And compensation isn't just about base salary. You've got benefits, too.
Health insurance, retirement plans, paid time off.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
It's about creating a package that attracts and retains employees.
Making them feel valued.
Exactly. And that ties into performance appraisals.
Right. That's where employees get feedback on how they're doing.
Exactly. It's a formal process. You evaluate an employee's performance against some predetermined standards. Managers can give feedback, recognize achievements, identify areas for improvement.
A chance to grow, to develop.
Exactly. Constructive feedback is key. And performance appraisals can influence things like salary increases, bonuses, promotions.
Makes sense. So compensation is tied to performance.
Right. And that brings us to career planning.
Helping employees map out their future with the company.
Yeah. You sit down with the employee, talk about their goals, create a development plan, explore opportunities for advancement.
It's about investing in their long-term growth.
Exactly. And when employees feel like they have a future, they're more likely to stick around.
Higher retention rates, a more engaged workforce.
Absolutely. Now, remember earlier we talked about employee referrals?
Yeah, the pros and cons.
Right. Well, the textbook mentioned it's a growing trend, which is interesting.
It is interesting. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, they can be great for finding talent, especially for those hard-to-fill positions.
Word of mouth, but more official.
Right. The employee is vouching for the person they're referring.
But are there any downsides?
That's a great question, and it's something we're going to explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Ooh, cliffhanger. Don't go anywhere, listener. We'll be back after a quick break to wrap things up. All right, we're back. And before the break, we were talking about employee referrals, right?
We were. A really interesting topic.
It is, and you mentioned some potential downsides. I'm curious, what are those downsides? What should we be watching out for?
Well, one thing to think about is, the existing workforce.
Okay.
If it's already kind of homogenous.
Homogenous.
Yeah, like everyone comes from similar backgrounds, similar experiences.
Right, I see what you mean.
And if a company relies too heavily on referrals, right, you might end up with a talent pool that's, well, not very diverse.
Okay, because if your employees are all kind of from the same mold,
Right.
their referrals are probably going to be similar.
Exactly.
So you end up lacking those different perspectives, different experiences.
Right. And they can hurt a company in the long run.
Makes sense. Diversity is so important for, innovation, problem solving.
Absolutely.
So employee referrals, good tool, but you got to use them carefully.
Yeah, strategically.
Yeah.
You need a mix, a balance of different recruitment methods to really build a diverse, talented workforce.
It's all about casting a wide net, right?
Yeah.
Getting the best people from all walks of life.
Exactly. That's the key.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about staffing, why it matters, and how it all works.
Me too. There's been a great discussion.
It has. And, we've talked about the whole process from defining staffing to recruitment, selection, training, compensation, even touched on some interesting trends like those employee referrals.
And that connection to HRM, human resource management, how it's evolved over time.
Right. It's not just about hiring people anymore. It's about nurturing them, developing them, creating a culture where they can thrive.
Exactly. It's an investment.
It is. So, to our listener out there in podcast land, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of staffing. We hope you found it insightful, maybe even a little bit inspiring. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one doing the staffing someday.
Maybe.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.